This is my second attempt at acrylic painting. So I'm going to go over some of the techniques I tried and experimented with and some of the things I messed up. And but yeah, here it is, my second attempt. Blind viewers, please be kind because yeah, this is only my second attempt at acrylics. Now I am using it's actually watercolor paper. I'm using it because, again, only my second attempt, so I didn't want to go out and buy canvases and all kinds of crazy stuff. I already had this. I knew it was thick enough. I knew it would work. So that's what I'm using right now. I am sketching out basic things in colored pencil first. So I kind of know what I'm doing and where I'm going. So again, be kind. This is only my second attempt. So yeah, I'm doing the best I can. Again, I'm kind of blocking in colors, putting things where I want it to go, and yeah, we'll see what happens. This has been an interesting process for me, being the colored pencil guy. But yeah, I'm still here. I'm still using colored pencils just to block in different things, get certain things in where they're supposed to be. Here we go. We're with the paint now. I'm going to start with the sky. I'm going to start in the back there and work my way forward. Now again, I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm kind of winging it right now. I'm learning as I go. Different techniques, different brushes to use, how much water to use, how much not to use, all that good stuff. How to do it when you're doing wet on wet, when you should let it dry first, and what happens when it's wet on wet, and what happens and when it's dry and you paint over it. I'm learning all this stuff, so again, be kind, and you'll see as I go through through this painting, I do something and I go, oh, that's horrible, I want to paint over it, or I try a technique or a brush or something, I'm like, no, that didn't work. So yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's not frustrating at all. It's like, hey, this is only the second time I've ever done this. So, hey, shit happens, right? Here I'm trying to get these mountains here that are in the far, far distance. I'm trying to get it to look like there's trees all over the place, looking at it from a distance. Again, I'm winging it. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm like, this might work. Let me try it. So I did. Now I'm laying down. It's like a grassy area in the valley that kind of sneaks off between those two mountains and goes off into the distance. And I am used to colored pencils, and with colored pencils you start with light and you work up to the dark. And it's different here because I can actually go in with the darker colors and go on top of the light colors. And put highlights up and midtones and stuff. I don't have to start with the lightest color and try to guess this. So it's a learning curve and it's different. I tried the fan brush for a bit, and then I tried another little brush, and yeah, I was jumping around like, what does this do? What does this look like? Should I use the other one? Should I use this one? What's going on? Yeah, I was just kind of bouncing around going, But But it's starting to look, at least that one I'm working on now, it's starting to look the way I want it to. Looks like the mountains around here anyway, when you're in the distance looking off, you can see the different kinds of trees, different little clumps and groups of trees. Just those little dark lines in the dark underneath of everything. And I'm just kind of like speckling some little random clumps of trees and trees here and there throughout that little, I don't know, meadow or whatever it is. I think I forgot to turn the camera on when I started, but yeah. Now I'm coming closer to another little field of grass and dry grass and whatever. So again, I started in the farthest in the back in the sky with the clouds and all that, and moving forward now. And trying different techniques, and I know what I want it to look like, but only being my second time doing this, it's like, how do I get it that way? I know how to do it with the pencils, but with the paints, it's like, I want it to look like this. How do I do this? So yeah, I'm just trying different things, and I'm mixing paint. Is that too light? Is that not green enough? Is it too yellow? I don't know. Plus, with the way my eyes are, I don't know if you're seeing the same thing I'm seeing or not. So there's another thing that's thrown into the mix. If something looks kind of like a yellowy green to me, is that what it looks like to you guys? I'm not sure. Now we're gonna do the the Bob Ross. Put a little happy little tree lives right here. In your world, you can put a happy little tree wherever you want to. But in my world, so yeah, I'm putting where the trees are gonna go. And over here, this is like there's more of those pines over on the other side of the fence, and they were branches that were kind of like sticking out. But here we're throwing in the happy little trees in my world. I've seen this done a million times, so I kind of got this figured out. My only thing was I went back, oh man, I don't know how many times I went over putting midtones and highlights on one side and not the other, and yeah, I did a couple of different techniques and layers on that. I am going back over the trees, getting some highlights. Actually, midtones, it's not even the light lights yet. And I was learning that depending on how you apply the paint, whether it kind of sinks in and goes away or whether it sticks on top. If you let it dry, if you go on wet, what it does, yeah, I was learning a whole bunch while I was doing this one, for sure. That's part of fun, learning. And I got a little liner brush, and I'm going in, doing highlights. I'm like, there's gotta be a better way, and I'm sure there is. This stuff took me so damn long, but again, it's only my second attempt, so I really don't know what I'm doing. So let me move over here and start doing this kind of closer up pine on the other side of the fence. Now this is where I had the most fun, actually, for me, being with the color pencils. I'm into the detail and all that, so getting the grain and the knots and all the other stuff on this wooden fence, this was fun for me. And I was trying different things. Let me try the fan brush. Let me see if I can get some grain with the fan brush. And yeah, I was doing all kinds of neat little things, trying to figure out different ways. Again, I know what I want it to look like, It's just, what do I got to do to achieve what I want? So I was trying all kinds of different things. And that's half the fun of it for now. The more I do, the faster it'll get and the easier it'll be, because I'll actually know what brush to grab and how to do it. But yeah. I'm also the whole time thinking of light sources and where shadows are going to be, how things are going to look and all that. And this whole color blocking thing for me is new, because I really don't do that a whole lot with the color pencils. And you probably can't tell on here, but in the these wood planks for the fence, there's a whole lot of colors going on. A little bit of greens, some grays, some browns, whites, blacks. Well, not blacks really, but really dark browns and blues. And there's all kinds of stuff going on in these planks. But it was fun. I enjoy doing this, the wood on this fence, probably the most out of everything. Yeah, I kind of jump around a lot, because sometimes I'm laying stuff down and I go somewhere else for a little bit just to let things dry for a little bit before I do what I need to back on top for layers. And here I found that I actually took white gouache and I was using it, and if I thinned it down with water and put it on, it was really transparent, and it kind of dried and faded away a little bit and gave it that really light gray weathered wood, kind of that chalky look to it. It was pretty cool. It turned out pretty well, I think. You can see me putting on a dab and some of it off some places, because I just wanted to, if you see a piece of wood that's been out in the weather for years, getting wet and then baking in the sun and getting wet and everything, it has that sort of grayish, really beat up look. So that's what I was trying to achieve. And still have the different layers and still be able to see the grains and the cracks and the knots. And then this post, trying to get it to where the sun's going to hit it in certain spots, and still have the detail with the weathered cracks at the top, so it's not just a big square thing. I want it to look old and weathered and worn. And then I roughed in the shadows where the cross members, or whatever it is, the fencing is going to cast a shadow on the post. Here I'm working on that grain, those kind of rough cut boards, like they were run through the sawmill and then just slapped up. They weren't squared up, they weren't planed or anything, just rough cut stuff. And when you get those real deep dark knots, they turn all but black. Sometimes they pop out, but it always has that gray or whitish part around the outside, right around the ring of the knot. So I was trying to get all that stuff in there. Also trying to get it that depth and that perspective to the whole thing of it fading off into the distance while trying to follow some kind of contour of a like a hilly thing or something, and so doesn't look so flat, so that you can tell that that those pine trees are actually down over a hill. I tried to make that fence kind of glide along that way and then kind of duck down and disappear like it went down over a hill. And here you'll notice I go over things so many times, and again, if I knew what I was doing, I probably wouldn't have to do this, going over everything 100 times. I'd be able to get it right the first time. A couple layers, yeah, but yeah, I just wasn't looking exactly the way I wanted to. But again, I'm still learning, so I'm not too hard on myself. I hope you folks will be kind as well. I know it's not the greatest looking thing in the world, but I'm getting there. It's coming along. Now I'm doing a brown wash, a real light brownish wash over the gray that I got. It's pretty much came out almost exactly the way I wanted it to, almost. Again, I thinned the paint out with water, a whole lot of water, and it kind of soaks in and as it dries. So when it first goes on, it looks kind of more brown than it ends up being. And that was the other thing I was doing. That's why there's so many layers you see me doing over and over and over again, because again, I don't know how this paint reacts. I don't know what I'm doing. I just know what I want it to look like, and again, having fun trying to figure out how to make it look that way. Now, some folks will probably ask, did you use a reference? Yeah, again, I used probably on this one, 1, 2, I think there was four reference photos I was just looking at, but nothing really, copied in, like this is it, line for line, trees are there and this goes here. No, it wasn't like that. Just looked at a few things to see what, for instance, like what those trees would look like on those mountains from a distance. So yeah, I always do use reference photos, but I won't say very rarely, I hardly ever copy anything. Here I'm putting those shadows in on that fence post, trying to get it to look sort of 3D-ish, not so flat, while keeping all the light sources and everything in mind, and the shape of it. And I'm not sure, but I'll probably go over it again about 4 more times. I keep going back over things like, that's close, but not quite. All right, now we're gonna do this last little bit of field grass patchy stuff here. the closest field, I guess you could say. I jumped around a lot on this as far as the editing goes, because like here I laid this down and like, okay, this is a color and let me let it dry for a while, go over here and do some of this, and then I come back to it and it's like, it didn't turn out the way I wanted to, so I paint over it again and again and again, trying different brushes, different techniques and everything to try to get it to look the way I wanted to. Yeah, I popped that one big long weed plant thing in the foreground just as a reference, trying to get everything so I had an idea of what it was, you know, how far to go until that little hill drops off where the pine trees are growing up from. The hardest thing about these landscapes for me is keeping everything random, because no matter what you do, you always wind up kind of, I don't want to say making patterns, but making patterns. No matter how random you try to be, things wind up kind of in some little group or pattern or something. You can see I'm trying a different technique here. Let me see how is this going to work? And let me try the fan brush to hit like the tops of the tall grasses and weeds. Is it going to look the way I want? Let me try this. Let me try a little palette knife. Is that going to work? Let me try this again with a different color. Does it look like tall grass? Yeah, it was a challenge. Like I said, I knew what I wanted it to look like, but I wasn't sure how to achieve it. I know when you get real close to things that are right in your face as opposed to what's far away, the darks are really, really dark and the lights are really, really light real close to you, and it's, you know, trying to get that perspective and the depth and everything. So yeah, I was going nuts. I went over this part I don't know how many times, as you can see. I did finally get it close to the way I wanted it. And then when I was actually happy with it, and I was like, yeah, okay, this looks pretty much the way I want it to. And then I had the grasses from the other side of the fence, a couple of the things poking through and coming up in front of the fence. Now it's time, because I got the grass and the weeds and stuff pretty much the way I like. Now it's time to throw in some flowers. Let's pop some flowers in here. Put them in varying distances and angles, sizes, trying to make it look as random as I can. And I'm throwing the highlights on these little tufts of, you know, those little wheat-looking weed things. Little seed pods or whatever they are. I don't know what they are, I just know I see them all over the damn place. Now we're going back in those little seed pod things and getting some yellows and browns and things in there so they're not so white. And I got to put all the little yellow centers in the little white flowers. If I'm not mistaken, I think I went with like a gray first or a brown, I forget what it was, and then I went in with the yellow, so it actually has a little brown circle around the yellow. Now I'm going to bounce around and hit the tops of all the different grasses and try to get that illusion of that nice rolling field of long grasses and weeds and flowers and things. And I know me, sometimes I look at something like, I could mess around and forever and ever. Knowing when to stop is hard. Now we gotta go in here. We gotta put some shadows on this fence from this to make it really look like it's supposed to, give us some depth and everything. Make those leaves and grasses pop out, jump off that fence so it doesn't look like it's laying right against it. Now we're going to throw in some flowers all over the place, some red ones and blue ones and purple ones, and just pop them around. Just little pops of color here and there. And then go in with lighter, like a dark red first, and then go over with a light red and put some little highlights and where the sun's hitting it. And there we go. There it is. My second attempt at an acrylic painting. I really enjoyed it. I had fun. I know it's not the best. It doesn't look really great, but it looks pretty close to what I wanted to achieve. Thanks for watching, guys. This is BlindViews, and that's the way I see it.
What we do here is go back.